each other from the very south end of the world to the middle of the world. But we believe in the recent days we can make friendship and we can make business together. I'm happy to have you here in our premises. I hope you see the developments happening in our country in the recent months and the future we are approaching. I don't want to talk too much. I leave it for Mustafa, who is the sincere friend of Australia and of Egypt.
Of course.
But I said Australia before Egypt.
No, both at the same level.
And I hope you have a very successful meeting today. I'm sorry today we have the board meeting, so I have to leave very quickly, and I leave you to do the job. Thank you for being here.
Schedule, so I'll make it very short. First of all, I would like to thank everyone today for your effort to come, and I would like to thank our friends and colleagues from Australia taking the effort and the time to come and see us here. I was privileged to live in Australia for almost 20 years, and I know the potential there. I know that Australia has a lot to offer to Egypt. During the last years, a lot of business people from both sides made the same mistakes, taking their decision based on assumptions, not facts. What I mean by that Egyptians assume Australia is too far, too complicated, don't know anything about it. Australians would say the same things, too far, too complicated, we don't know anything about it. Actually, this is not very correct. We have both countries has a lot to offer to each other. Australia has Australia is not a country of wheat and meat like a lot of people would assume that. Australia has a lot to offer to Egypt, from education to tourism to renewable energy to agriculture. The list is long. Health. So I assume this is the first start. This is the first delegation since 2010 who comes to Egypt. We are privileged to have you here today, and we believe this is the start of a new era between Egypt and Australia. Egyptian government is very keen to start a fresh start with Australia and open a new page. Last few years we have a lot of hiccups here and there, but I believe nowadays these days are over, and things will go upward from now on. Our friend from Australia has a lot to offer today. They represent more than 15-16 companies in different areas. It's the first trip for them here in Egypt. Definitely it won't be the last. We hope that this will open the doors for Egyptians to know better and to know more about Australia, and at the same time for Australians to come and see that it's safe, secured, and it's a good country to make investment and to get a very high return also. I hope next time we'll have a bigger delegations and more frequent delegation, and we hope that next time also, within the near future, we'll have an Egyptian delegation visiting Australia. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll let you, Ray, continue.
Thank you.
Because I know that you have to catch your flight today, otherwise.
Well, 5 o'clock, as long as we're on the plane at 5 o'clock.
Inshallah.
شو بقول بالعربي أهلا وسهلا بالجماعة وشكرا على تعبكم بالشغلكم وجيتوا لهون تنساير معنا اليوم. العربي تبعي مش مزبوط كثير because أنا خلقين بأستراليا, so I'm going to speak in English for the rest of the time. But it's lovely to be here, and it's a very important time for Australia to consider Egypt is now open for business. It's always been open for business, but you have had to struggle through three or so years of difficulty, and I can see in my last 2 days here with great hospitality, but also some very interesting meetings with some very important people. We've just come from a meeting with Minister Hanafi, and he's very, very positive about the future for this country, and I can see that there are going to be some great things. And I think Egyptians in particular should be proud and be congratulated. They've taken the country from those difficulties where you were 2 or 3 years ago to where you are today. And this will be the catalyst that will drag the Australian thinking out of its backward thinking Egypt's too difficult a market to come to. It's really it's going to be a wide open market. You have some huge plans in the next few years of development. Before I say much more, I have a message from our Trade Minister, Martin Hamilton-Smith, who wanted to be here. He's actually lived in Egypt, worked here. He was an SAS soldier with the peacekeeping force on the Sinai in the 1980s. And so he has lived here. He loves the country. I also have an acquaintance, and you may have met the man, a former ambassador to Egypt was Mr. Robert Newton. Robert was also a chief executive of our Arab Chamber of Commerce in Australia, and he accompanied me to Egypt on a couple of occasions. This is my 4th or 5th visit here. I worked in Egypt myself in 2000 for a company called Cleopatra Farms, and we did a lot of work at East Owanet, at Nurabaya and Sinai and a few other places. So I'm reasonably familiar with the geography of the country, but I'm not familiar with all the nuances of what's going to be happening in the next few years. Without further ado, I'd like to just play this video, if I may, so you have a message from our State Minister to yourselves. Program to stick by, and I know that I think it's Ambassador Hisham is going to speak directly after me.
Briefly.
Yeah, that's okay, as long as you like. But I'd like to also say that today we have you have a notice in front of you of the many companies that Miss Suzette Lamshed has pulled together for this trip. Suzette is the owner of the business that has created this economic entity, this commercial business, because while chambers of commerce can carry out certain amount of business-to-business work, they don't have necessarily have the resources to actually create the linkage between the actual, after the introduction happens, and getting the actual down to business commercially working and being done in a practical way where it actually is it has an outcome and actually reaches fruition and has some positive results. The hospitality we have received here since we have arrived has been exceptional, and I have to thank Mr. Mustafa Ibrahim, who's been a dear friend over a few years with me now, and he has really pulled out the stumps. We unfortunately had to be here on Thursday night, which Friday, Saturday is your weekend with your families, but we've had some very nice people look after us, but at the same time we've been able to create some interesting connections through business on the last 2 days. The industry groups are mentioned in the papers you have in front of you, but we're not able today to cover education. We're not able to cover medical issues at all in the program. But if anyone wants to discuss those with me, I can certainly take back their message to Australia afterwards. So I won't say any more because we will be talking to you. I can represent engineering and the renewable energy side of the trade mission today. But Suzette will expand on other things after we get through the next part of the business, when we've actually heard from the other two gentlemen here. So I'd like to now hand over to you, Ambassador, if you may take over. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and Business Association, for its kind invitation extended to me to come and welcome you today. Many thanks also go to Mr. Raymond Najjar, Chairman Australia Business Connect, and the members of the Arab Australian Chamber of Trade and Industry for making this visit possible, as well as the Egyptian Embassy in Australia. As you may all know, Egypt has witnessed 2 revolutions during the past 4 years, the result of which was that a new Egypt is emerging. Change is our new motto. Change in all respects, being it in business, policies, thought, legislation, economy, etc. Despite all the challenges and difficulties, Egypt is determined more than ever to embark on the path of achieving the goals inspired by its 2 revolutions of for justice, freedom, equitable development, and economic growth. However, to attain these goals, Egypt values the contribution of its partners worldwide, being it in technology transfer, training, trade, investment, and economic partnership, given the huge potential Egypt possesses. It is in this context that we value very much your visit today, as we believe that the state of South Australia has achieved world-renowned progress in so many fields, least of which agribusiness, by using state-of-the-art irrigation systems, mining and defense industries. Fields we long to have close cooperation with you, given the challenges posed by the shortage of water we face and the huge mining potential Egypt possesses. Egypt's mega project to set up a logistics center for trade and grain trading is yet another domain for further cooperation, as Australia is one of the biggest producers and exporters of grain. I am confident that your meeting today with the Minister of Supply and Internal Trade, His Excellency Dr. Khalid Hanafi, has made you more acquainted with the magnitude of the project and the importance we attach to it. I remain certain that your forum will reach its goals of exploring opportunities and lay the ground for continued business contacts. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I represent here the Egyptian commercial representation. I will talk some numbers, so I hope it will not be very boring for you. I will try my best not to be that boring. But let me first extend my gratitude to the Egyptian Businessmen Association for allowing me to be part of your special day here and their deep-rooted association. The bilateral trade between Egypt and Australia have reached around 500 million Australian dollars. Around 90% of them are Egyptian imports from Australia, dominated by wheat, cook, meat, cheese. The Egyptian exports to Australia reached around 40 million Australian dollars. Mainly fertilizers and chemicals, some textiles, ready-made garments, carpets. We can see from the statistics that the bilateral trade is always traditional. We are not exploring new spaces for cooperation between Egypt and Australia. For example, Egypt is offering many opportunities for Australian businesses to open and prosper here in Egypt, especially after the Sharm Sheikh conference will offer new plans for land reclamation and agribusiness. The Australian investments in Egypt amount to around 160 million Australian dollars, mainly in mining and some industrial projects like ceramics, manufacture of paper. Also, we are not making use of the Australian experience in the sand and the glass manufacturing. We offer a lot of high quality silicon sand in Egypt here, and you will hear about it in the Sharm Sheikh conference next week. I will try to finish and let you enjoy the rest of the day with our experts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much once again on behalf of Australia Business Connect for enabling today to happen. We'd like to thank the Egyptian Businessmen's Association and also thank you, Ray, for the introduction. We've been overwhelmed with the response from your fellow countrymen and women in terms of the opportunities to engage with your community, and we're looking forward to doing that. As Ray said, I come from an airline background, so I deal with yield and revenue and time management, so we'll get straight to the pointy end, which is obviously talking about the business-to-business meetings. So I'll just sort of run through. We actually have a booklet here. Each of you will be able to get this electronically if you don't have this. We're currently representing 16 companies in South Australia, and if we just scroll through, I'll go through some of the companies. Today, I'd also like to introduce you to the two gentlemen sitting in the middle here. Mr. Joshua Rashid is representing not only his company, which is South Australia Seed Marketers, but also Lucerne Australia. Lucerne Australia represents the governing body that represents the 95 million per annum of alfalfa seeds that South Australia obviously grows and exports to the world. We also have a gentleman here by the name of Michael. Michael is representing a company that is his own company, his own IP. He has developed a technology in fencing that is used around the world, the equivalent in Australia like the Tour de France, the bicycle rides, to gate off people, to stop pedestrians, to enable safety. It's used in mining and other areas too. So Michael actually has some examples here and he'll show you those. We also have obviously a lot of other companies. So I'll just go through the list here. If we just go up to, where are we? Oh, sorry. Okay. So up the top of the list, South Australia Seed Marketers. As I said, Joshua is here today, so he's looking forward to engaging with you. He's also from an agribusiness consulting background, so he can help with that. We also have Bully's Beef and Other Meats. Now that is a company that is, I'll sit down, Angus Beef. Angus Beef is very well known internationally. It is hormone-free, organic. It is the best beef you can buy, except I think I'm a bit biased. They also have white Dorper lamb that is available also. We also have some opportunities for investment in agriculture or JV, which I'm happy to discuss with you privately. We also have opportunities with a company that is also in agribusiness consulting. Again, I can discuss that with you privately. We have opportunities in horticulture and agriculture with a soil enhancer, which is a product that actually helps the nutrient uptake into the soil. We have a company called Doma Constructions, which Ray will talk to you about in further detail, which is a construction, water, engineering services, mining, project construction, management, quality, safety and environmental company. They deal with large-scale desalination engineering projects. They were overseeing the $1.5 billion desalination plant in South Australia. So they are used to dealing with extremely large projects. As I mentioned, Michael, who is here today, Visible Temporary Fencing Australia. You can see this fencing from 250 metres away in the dark. So it provides fabulous security and obviously with some of the great developments that you have here that we've been hearing about over this trip, there will be a need for I guess herding crowd control, like I've said with the Tour de France, that type of thing. Michael also has a portable prefabricated housing, so he can help with emergency housing or a demountable type of house that is a flat pack, and he would love to engage with you about that. He's had a lot of interest from that already. He also has catering and hospitality equipment, commercial supermarket equipment. We have a company called Innovative Total Solutions Australia, which has developed a concept called the bio bin. Basically, if I put it simply to you, organic waste, i.e. chicken farms, i.e. restaurants, you put the food or the chickens into this bin and they convert it into compost. So it's a great idea with your initiatives with agribusiness. We also have Cartwheel Resources, which is a company that works in the clean energy, water manufacturing and minerals exploration. KeySab, which is actually, we've had quite a bit of interest for KeySab. It's a South Australian iconic company that's been around longer than I've been alive, I'm proud to say. They have helped communities and environments to look at environmentally sustainable education. So re-engineering thought processes in communities with waste, with helping schools engage to look at the waste and governments, and designing programs for the social interaction with that. We also have a company called Best on Global Food. Now they produce high-end cheeses and dairy products and seafood and health products. Another company called Kismet Jardin, which is effectively a beauty products, skincare, hair care and natural perfumery. They're actually the leaders in green chemistry, which is changing the way that that cosmetics use so that there's not bad chemicals in your face, and also the perfumes do not contain chemicals. There's an investment opportunity, and I'm sure, gentlemen, even though some of you may not be interested in cosmetics, I know the ladies would be, you're interested in the return on investment, as obviously I'm always interested in that too. And there's a very good return on investment with that if you'd like to discuss that. Then we have Investment Services for South Australia, which is a South Australian company that can talk to you about residential, commercial and industrial and agricultural investments. And then we have our company, which is Ray and I, Australia Business Connect. We help to facilitate bilateral trade and investment. We are very proud to be here. I understand that there hasn't been a delegation here for a while. We are the conduit. The chambers and the business councils are very important, but at the end of the day, when it comes to working with an individual at an entity level, that's what we do. And we'd also like to acknowledge Bridget Collier, the First Secretary from the Australian Embassy, for your support, and thank you very much indeed. Without Bridget's support, we certainly wouldn't feel so welcome, but also logistics are great, so thank you again. But that's really it in essence, and I think we need to start the B2B. So South Australia, we've got some PowerPoints, I'll just show you quickly. South Australia's seed marketers, as it says, Australia's premier supplier of seed. Essentially, I'll just talk these points through, you can have a look and see. Basically, they are the largest supplier of the public varieties to the wholesale trade throughout Australia. One of the largest suppliers of public pasture seed varieties, and the leading stockist of public and proprietary varieties of small seeds. They've been around for 50 years. They are a family-owned company. As I mentioned, Joshua, who is here, is on the executive, which represents 95 million per annum and 250 individual farms. They provide supervision of contract seed production and multiplication for public and proprietary varieties of seeds. They are the supplier and the distribution channel not only for the domestic Australian market, for international. They offer agri-consult, so they also consult in agribusiness, so they can help looking at the technologies that you're developing here and the opportunities in agri. They can help you with the consulting to make sure that you've got the best yield, the best production. Effectively, they are the decision makers, so because it's a family business, you're dealing directly with the decision makers. They are located in an area in Australia that is 85% of the Lucerne market. So there's no better place to be in Australia. The opportunity